Juliana Reed walked into the office building with her heart rattling inside her ribs like a trapped bird. Her heels clicked against polished marble. Her fingers clenched a half-finished vanilla latte that had long since gone cold, and her forced smile flickered on and off as she nodded at passing colleagues. From the outside, it looked like a normal Monday morning at Helix Ventures. Chatter buzzed. Laptops blinked open. Phones rang. But inside her, chaos. It had been months since Grayson, the man she'd once believed was her forever, came home from his final military tour. Iraq had carved something cold and remote into him. She'd waited, begged him to talk, but he drifted further each day, until, slowly, she let herself drift, too, into the arms of a man who paid attention, who smiled, who didn't come home with haunted eyes. His name was Brian West, and he worked 2 floors up. Juliana sat down in her cubicle and booted up her computer. Her heart was pounding harder now, not the usual office jitters. Something was off. Then came a hush, sudden and unnatural. She heard the gasps before she saw him. A man in a navy suit, sharp and lethal-looking, strode through the sea of desks like a bullet. People turned in their seats. Conversations froze. One woman dropped her pen, and then he stopped at her desk. Juliana Reed? She stood, confused and uneasy. Yes. The man pulled a stack of thick papers from his leather case. You've been served. Before she could respond, before her confused brain could even catch up, he raised something else. A photograph. And not just any photo. Her photo. Her. And Brian. In a hotel room. Bare shoulders. Intimate shadows. Evidence of everything she'd tried to bury. No, she whispered, her knees buckling. The man rotated the image for everyone nearby to see. Divorce papers, he announced loudly. And evidence of Ms. Reed's infidelity. Someone gasped. Another stifled a laugh. Murmurs raced like fire down the open office rows. Juliana's world tilted. She couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. The papers were placed on her desk with cold precision. I believe this concludes my delivery, the man said, before snapping his case shut and vanishing. Juliana collapsed in her seat, face flushed, tears building. Her friend, Kayla, rushed from the next cubicle and wrapped an arm around her. He showed the photo. To everyone. Everyone saw it. Juliana whispered, her voice hoarse. I know, Kayla murmured. Come on, let's get you out of here. But it wasn't over. Within minutes, their HR head, the division manager, and 2 supervisors entered the conference room where Kayla had taken Juliana to hide. Ms. Reed, one of them began, your husband has accused this company of condoning workplace affairs. We've been advised of possible legal consequences. We're placing you on immediate suspension pending investigation. That was it. In less than 10 minutes, she lost her dignity, her job, and her marriage, all in front of dozens of coworkers who used to admire her. Kayla walked her out, shielding her from the eyes and whispers. By the time Juliana got in her car, she was shaking so hard she could barely start the engine. Her phone buzzed. A message from Grayson. You wanted to burn down our life? I just lit the first match. Her stomach turned. Something terrible was coming. As she pulled onto the street, she couldn't stop crying. But she had no idea that the flames Grayson referred to weren't just metaphorical. When she turned on her quiet cul-de-sac, her world exploded again. This time, literally. Her house was on fire. Flames spat from the windows like demonic tongues. Smoke curled against the sky. And carved into the lawn, in dark burned grass, was one word. Whore. She slammed the brakes, jumped out, and screamed. Landon. Where's Landon? Their 4-year-old son. Neighbors stared. Phones filmed. No one answered. Then a man in a ball cap approached. He's not here. Your husband left with him earlier. Juliana's phone rang. Grayson's name flashed on the screen. She answered with shaking fingers. Where's our son? He's fine. Sleeping in my car. Unlike his mother, I protect what I love. You burned our house. I warned you. You humiliated me in my job, destroyed our life. Why are you punishing me like this? Because I watched the footage, Juliana. The cameras I hid. I saw you. I heard you. In our bedroom. Saying his name. With our child's drawings on the nightstand. You ended this marriage long before I did. I'm just finishing what you started. She screamed at him. Begged to speak to her son. He ended the call. And just like that, he vanished with her child. Neighbors watched as she fell to her knees in ash, her world literally and emotionally on fire. And that's when Brian, the man from the photo, arrived. "Juliana," he asked, stunned. "What happened?" She glared at him. "You happened." Juliana could barely look at Brian. His face, once familiar and comforting, now only reminded her of destruction. His presence, once thrilling, now felt like salt on fresh wounds. The sirens still wailed in the distance. Her home, the only home her son ever knew, was now a heap of blackened ruin. The grass still smoked beneath that hateful word Grayson had burned into their yard like a final branding. "You need to leave," Juliana said hoarsely. Brian crouched beside her, his voice soft. "I'm not leaving you alone like this. You left me alone the second you whispered to me in the office elevator, knowing exactly what it would lead to." She snapped, her throat tight with rising rage and tears. "You're not the answer now. You're part of the problem." He said nothing. He knew she was right. She stood up, shakily, her legs trembling. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was her father. "Juliana, are you safe? The fire, the news, we saw everything. Where's Landon?" Tears fell freely now. "Dad, he took him. Grayson took Landon. He burned the house. Everything's gone." Her father's voice dropped into something steely and controlled. "We're coming. Right now." Within 15 minutes, a black SUV pulled up. Her parents rushed out. Her father immediately surveyed the wreckage, then spotted Brian and bristled. "You need to leave," he growled. "I'm not trying to make this worse," Brian muttered. "I just get out before I lose whatever civility I'm barely holding on to." Brian didn't argue. He gave Juliana one last glance, a mix of guilt, concern, and confusion, then disappeared into his car. Juliana's father turned back to her. "What the hell happened?" She told him everything. From the affair to the photo reveal, the office scandal, the house fire, to Grayson's abduction of their son. Her mother was crying softly. Her father was seething. "We're calling the police," he said. "Now." "No," Juliana said, voice trembling. "He has everything, Dad. Photos, audio, private footage. He'll make sure no judge gives me custody. He'll say I'm unstable, unfaithful, unfit." Her father stared at her. "Then we fight fire with fire. Because he doesn't get to destroy your life and run off with your son." Juliana didn't speak. She couldn't. Her heart was bruised and burning. And then, just as she began to feel the swell of hope from her father's protective presence, another pain pulsed through her stomach, sharp, nauseating, unfamiliar. She stumbled back against the scorched fence. "Juliana," her mother gasped, reaching for her. I think," Juliana swallowed hard, tears forming for a different reason this time. "I think I'm pregnant." Her father froze. "Grayson's?" She shook her head. "No, it's Brian's." A silence followed, heavier than anything yet. Her mother's hand tightened on her shoulder. Her father looked like someone had stabbed him in the gut. "Then we have a much bigger war ahead," he said finally. Juliana didn't reply. She stared at the burned shell of her home, the emptiness echoing louder than the fire trucks or the voices around her. Everything had collapsed. Her husband hated her. Her child was gone. Her job was gone. Her future? Unwritten, black and charred like the embers around her. But deep within her, a flicker sparked. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But she knew this much. She wasn't going down like this. Not for Grayson. Not for the coworkers whispering behind their desks. Not for the man who exposed her. And definitely not for the man who ran away with her child while smirking from the flames. Juliana stood before the full-length mirror in the guest room of her parents' house, wearing the same soot-stained blouse from the day before. Her reflection didn't look like a woman. It looked like a ghost. Her eyes were ringed with exhaustion. Her lips were cracked. Her fingers shook. She had lost everything, except her fire. She reached into the drawer, pulled out the phone Grayson didn't know she still had, her old, hidden backup, and scrolled through the encrypted folder she and Brian had once used to communicate when things had just started. Messages, voice notes, GPS pins, deleted calls. She hadn't touched it in weeks. But now it was evidence. Of her mistakes, yes, but also of Grayson's slow descent into something far more dangerous than heartbreak. A knock came at the door. Her father stepped in, jaw tense. "The detective just left. They're opening a case. But I'll be honest with you. They're hesitant. The moment they saw the photos Grayson leaked online, they asked about mental stability and volatile home conditions. This isn't going to be easy, Jules. Juliana nodded slowly. He's winning. Every minute that passes, he's getting further ahead. I can feel it. Her father stepped closer, lowering his voice. Then we don't waste another minute. They began gathering everything. Her mother, quiet but fierce, compiled all her medical documents, showing she was of sound health. Her father contacted a legal friend who had deep ties to a judge known for leniency in custody disputes. Juliana, meanwhile, got to work on Grayson himself. She began piecing together what she never dared to investigate while married, his past, and what she found stunned her. Bank transfers, offshore accounts, a burner phone in his name, multiple emails she never knew existed, private investigator expenses, a P.O. box registered in another state, and a line item labeled contingency plan, child retrieval. He'd been planning this for months. He knew, long before the photos, long before the confrontation. He'd hired a private firm, tracked her, even bugged their living room. He'd been building his revenge brick by brick in silence. And now she knew something he didn't. She could use this against him. It was no longer just about getting Landon back. It was about exposing Grayson for who he had become. That night, Juliana sat on the back porch, wrapped in a shawl, eyes locked on the moon. Her belly ached. Stress, pregnancy, fear. But she was anchored by something she hadn't felt since this all began. Purpose. Kayla called late that night. I heard from inside the company, her friend said. Your job is unofficially gone. They're trying to push you out quietly. HR's being gutted. They don't want any ties to the scandal. They're blaming you. Juliana closed her eyes. Let them. You're not angry. Oh, I am. But I'm no longer playing defense. She hung up and opened a new folder on her laptop. Labeled it Project Phoenix. Step 1. Sue Grayson for arson, abduction, defamation, and illegal surveillance. Step 2. Petition for full custody. Step 3. Rebuild her life, piece by piece, and make sure Grayson watched her do it from a courtroom seat. But first, she had to find her son. Juliana barely slept. Each hour that passed without Landon felt like a small death. Every time her phone buzzed, she leapt, hoping it was Grayson with even a single word. But it never was. Only lawyers. Detectives. Her worried mother. Kayla checking in. And Brian, texting more than he should have. She stopped replying to Brian. She didn't hate him, but she didn't want him around. He was part of the wreckage, and right now, she was busy clearing the fire, not crawling back into it. 3 days after the house fire, Juliana filed a temporary emergency custody request with the help of a ruthless attorney her father had referred, a woman named Naomi Travers. Naomi didn't blink at the messy details. Adultery's not great, she said, tapping her pen against a yellow legal pad. But arson, kidnapping, surveillance, emotional abuse, that's far worse. And that's our story. Juliana nodded. Make him bleed. Naomi arched a brow. Figuratively. Juliana didn't respond. The next day, Juliana received a court date. 2 weeks away. That gave Grayson plenty of time to disappear completely. But she wouldn't let that happen. She hired a private investigator, Marcus Wilder, ex-cop, eyes like radar. Within 48 hours, he tracked down a burner car Grayson had used for gas just outside of Tucson. A rental cabin. Remote. Off-grid. Juliana stared at the address Marcus texted her. Do I wait for court? She asked Naomi. No, Naomi said. You go. With a deputy, if possible. But if you can't get one, go anyway. So she did. Juliana packed what little she had. Her parents pleaded to go with her, but she refused. If something happens, I need someone here ready to fight in court. She drove 10 hours straight. No music, no distractions, just her racing thoughts and a photo of Landon clipped to the dash. When she finally reached the dirt road leading to the cabin, it was pitch black and silent. The night hummed with desert wind and crickets. Her headlights caught a silhouette. A vehicle. An SUV. Grayson's rental. She parked 50 yards away and crept closer. Through a slit in the curtains, she saw movement. A small body, Landon, on the couch, bundled under a blanket, a tablet in his lap. Alive. Safe. Breathing. Juliana choked on a sob. Hand clutched to her chest. She stepped back and dialed Marcus. He's here. With Landon. Cabin's not guarded. I'll call the sheriff, Marcus said. But depending on jurisdiction, it might take hours. I'm not waiting. She hung up. She crept to the back door, heart hammering. 1 creak. 2. Then the handle twisted. She stepped inside. The warmth hit her like a memory. A fire in the hearth. The scent of pine and cocoa. Landon was giggling at something on screen. And then he looked up. Mommy. Juliana dropped to her knees, arms wide. Baby, oh my God. But before they could touch, a voice thundered from the hallway. Get away from him. Grayson. He stood there, hair longer, darker under the cabin lights. His beard unshaven. He looked exhausted, but furious. You don't get to show up like this. Juliana stood slowly, keeping one hand on Landon's shoulder. You don't get to take him like this. I'm his father, and I'm his mother. Grayson crossed the room, tension in every step. You walked out on this family the moment you opened your legs for Brian. Juliana flinched, but held her ground. And you walked out when you set our life on fire. Grayson's face twisted. That life died the moment I saw those videos. She inhaled sharply. You were spying on me in my own bedroom. You had cameras installed without my knowledge. That's not love, Grayson. That's warfare. Landon began crying, eyes darting between them. Juliana immediately scooped him up. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. You're okay. Grayson's voice cracked. I was protecting him. From you. Juliana looked at him. Not with hate, but with a deep, painful clarity. You didn't protect him. You kidnapped him. You burned his home. You made him your pawn. Silence. Grayson's shoulders dropped. And for a fleeting moment, Juliana saw what she'd missed for so long. His brokenness. The PTSD. The unspoken pain. The isolation. The man she once loved was buried under it all, gasping for air. I didn't know how to fight you, he said, voice quiet. I thought I was losing everything. I snapped. Juliana swallowed hard. You did lose everything. So did I. But Landon didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. The cabin lights flickered. Police sirens, distant but growing, echoed in the night. Grayson turned toward the window. You called them. Juliana nodded. You left me no choice. He didn't resist. He just sank onto the couch, head in hands. The courtroom was silent. A heavy, smothering kind of silence. The kind that arrives before something permanent breaks. Juliana sat at the plaintiff's table, dressed in charcoal gray, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Naomi Travers sat beside her, calm but sharp-eyed. On the other side, Grayson Reed, wearing a fitted suit that couldn't hide the bags under his eyes or the dark bruise of exhaustion behind them. In the gallery sat Kayla, Juliana's parents, and a few colleagues from her now former company, faces etched with curiosity and conflict. A social worker stood beside a bailiff near the front. Judge Holloway, a stern woman with an affinity for precise words and zero tolerance for drama, adjusted her glasses and cleared her throat. Ms. Travers, she said, you have the floor. Naomi stood, walking to the center of the courtroom like a surgeon approaching a delicate procedure. Your Honor, this case is not about infidelity. It's not about marital resentment. It's about a child, taken without consent, removed from his home, and used as a weapon in a war fueled by pride and rage. My client, Juliana Reed, has made mistakes. She doesn't deny them. But what her husband did, arson, illegal surveillance, abduction, goes beyond the pale. And we have the evidence to prove every piece of it. The judge nodded. Show me. Over the next hour, the courtroom became a theater of exposure. Security footage of Grayson loading Landon into his car the night of the fire. Financial records showing payments to private investigators. Audio clips of Grayson threatening Juliana. Burn marks carved into the lawn spelling vulgarities. And the kicker, photos of hidden cameras installed inside their bedroom without Juliana's knowledge. Juliana didn't cry. She refused to cry in front of Grayson again. But when the footage played of little Landon in the cabin whispering, "Is Mommy mad at me?" she nearly lost her breath. Grayson's defense attorney tried to counter that he was suffering from untreated PTSD, that he was triggered by betrayal, that he acted out of desperation. It didn't work. When the judge finally leaned forward, her face was unreadable. Mr. Reed, she said, I am sympathetic to your military service and mental health history, but none of that excuses your behavior. You placed a child in emotional danger. You committed arson. You breached privacy laws and used revenge as a parenting tool. Juliana gripped the arms of her chair. Effective immediately, custody of Landon Reed will be granted to his mother, with supervised visitation rights for the father, contingent upon psychiatric evaluation and a full rehabilitation plan. Grayson's jaw clenched. The gavel came down. Juliana exhaled the first real breath she'd taken in weeks. It was over, or so she thought. 2 weeks later, Juliana stood in her new apartment, holding her son as he napped against her chest. Everything was different now. Her job was gone, her old life incinerated. But she had Landon. She had a future. And, against all odds, she had strength she didn't know existed. Her door buzzed. She frowned, walked over, and opened it. "Brian. Again. I know I'm the last person you want to see," he said, holding an envelope. She didn't speak. He handed it to her. Inside, a document. Legal. Official. And horrifying. It was a lawsuit from Grayson's parents. They were suing for custody rights, claiming Juliana's actions and the instability of her lifestyle proved she was unfit to raise their grandson alone. Brian looked stunned. "He's using them to keep hurting you." Even from the outside, Juliana stared at the document, her entire body shaking. Then, slowly, the tears came, but not from fear, from clarity. She looked up at Brian. "Then I guess we go to war again." 6 months later, Juliana walked hand in hand with Landon through the park. He giggled, chasing pigeons. She watched him like sunlight, precious and alive. A second baby bump peeked through her coat. The custody battle with the grandparents had failed. Grayson had retreated into therapy and disappeared from the public eye. Juliana published a memoir. A publisher picked it up. It was titled, "Ashes in Custody: How I Lost Everything But My Son." The final chapter read, "He thought burning the house down would break me, but all it did was light a new kind of fire inside me, one that will never go out." She had been the woman they whispered about in offices, the woman they doubted, the cheater, the failure, the one who fell apart. But she rose, and this time, she would never fall again.